And we are back on air with another Hangout on Air. And we are back with Peter, Sophie, and myself. And this time we are really in three countries because before it was Peter from London, not from London, but coming from London, live from London. And Sophie now is in Sweden. So in her, and myself, I'm from Lisbon. And I'm
Philip,
yes.
can everyone else hear what I'm hearing? Hello?
Do you hear? Is that a problem with the sound? Sophie, can you hear? Okay. You hear okay, Sophie?
Yes.
It's repeating everything. Everything repeats.
Oh, do you hear a repetition, Sophie?
No.
Can you enter, leave and enter again, Peters? Sometimes this kind of Microsoft solution works, even though we are talking about the Google platform, but it's like an IT thing. I also restarted some iPhones, so. So we are like alone again, Sophie and me. But we can start. Today we are talking about 9 ways to develop personal power. And as always, we try to come up with interesting topics. And this one is an interesting one because everyone wants some power. Nobody wants as a goal to be powerless. They want to have a power to influence because that gives us a sense of fulfillment. We need to be fulfilled as a person, and we need to understand that we can change things around us. It might be the environment, it might be people, it might be everything else that surrounds us. So it's always a quest to understand what can be a source of personal power, how we can really impact others and our communities. Because at the end of the day, we are only one individual, and we really need some things, some tips, some tricks in order to develop the power that is already inside of us. So, Sophie, today we will be talking about 9 ways of developing that personal power. And I give the first one to you. I hope to give the second to Peter, that I hope now is not hearing us with echo. Are you still hearing us with echo?
No, and I realized that was my fault because I had another window opened, which was for people tuning into the Hangout. And of course, I'm hearing a delayed transmission. So I am back.
And you are back and bad. You know that you will be punished by that.
Oh, good.
Okay.
I like a bit of punishment.
Oh, well, okay. No more intimate things. Sophie, first one.
Yeah. My first point and tips is about love and boundaries. And I have a friend, she's always reminding me of this. And when we are, well, in my life, I often find it overwhelming with certain people in certain situations. And she always tells me that you have to make it easy and manageable for yourself first. Because if you don't do that, you are going to get tired, depressed, and like burned out. And she tells me this on a regular basis. She's a good friend. Like every 3rd month, I get this reminder. And it makes it easier for me. And I tend to overthink certain situations and don't be able to do anything about it. And this sort of search for making my life a little bit easier has made me by Lean Production from Toyota about finding the real problem and try to solve it and move it forward and make things as smooth as possible at home. So I do this with my papers, all papers coming in. I organize them in certain ways and I manage them with a cabinet and sort of have an archive with them. I do it with my training exercise gear. So it's like in a flow. I always have like some of my exercise gear ready and clean. So I will never find myself, okay, I cannot exercise today because I didn't clean it. And I do the same with my cooking and kitchen. So I try to have like some kind of flow in everything, and it makes my life much easier, and it makes it more like in my home. It makes it more manageable, and yeah, you know what I mean. And when it comes to my relationship, I try to sort of have. I don't want to be like listening to someone's same problem over and over and over again. I try to sort of, okay, we have to maybe move on now and release the energy and do something else. So think about that, love and boundaries, and how you're managing your home life.
Well, it's a thing that I also agree very much, because I always like to focus on solutions and not the problems. And the problem is only a problem is there is no solution for it, and that's it. Yeah. So, Peter.
Right. Well, my first one is that personal power starts with you, and we need to fully recognize that. Now, it might seem like an obvious thing to say because you're talking about yourself, but what I find is a lot of people think that they need to have other things outside themselves to make themselves powerful. And a classic example would be my work with emerging leaders in corporate environments, where they want the promotion because they think that once they've got a higher level title, that somehow people will listen to them more and take them more seriously. But what often happens is they get it the wrong way round, because they are waiting for the title to give them personal power, but actually titles come after personal power usually. So by getting better at having more influence, gaining more respect by the way they are, how they behave in the corporate environment, it's more likely that they will get opportunities to be promoted. And in fact, let me say one more thing about that. I think the real test of personal power is when those things are taken away from you. I've worked with people who've become quite vulnerable because they've lost their job, you know, through redundancy or whatever. And suddenly all of those things that they thought made them powerful have been stripped away. And so part of what, you know, the job I've had to do with people is to help them find the power within themselves. And there's a great quote from Roger Hamilton that I really love that says, your wealth is what you have when you lose all your money. In other words, the wealth exists inside you. Your capacity to get stuff done, attract the right opportunities and resources is actually your wealth. It's not actually what you have, it's who you are. That's it.
Now, Peter, that is very interesting, because it reminds me of one thing, that is many times people that get to some position, professional position in some company, they get certain types of invitations and certain things, that certain benefits, let's say, the society benefits, let's say, and they don't realize that it's only because they are in that place. A donkey could be there and they would get the same benefits.
Yeah.
So, but it feels so good that at some point we don't realize that we think, okay, this happens because it's me.
Yes.
To a donkey that would be sitting here, it wouldn't happen. But the awful truth is that donkeys sitting in the same place will get the same benefits.
Yes.
So
yes,
that's why it goes with the one that I wanted to share with you, is that the power comes from sharing. If you share your inner wealth, let's say, like you're saying, Peter, if you have the possibility of helping others with your knowledge, with your experience, you will get it back also, because it is a normal process. We as social animals do that, because we started from a thing that is like information society, and now we are in a knowledge society. In an information society, retaining information was really, really good. We needed to retain that information in order to get power. Now retaining Information is like grabbing some oxygen. You imagine that the three of us, are in the same room, and I grab some oxygen in my hand. I have no power over you because oxygen is everywhere. So it's normal that you will have other molecules of oxygen to breathe. So I have no power. But the idea is still, for many people, there's retaining information. But no, we live in a knowledge society, and in a knowledge society, you really have to get more knowledge across, and you will get it back. Power comes from that. So, Sophie, your second one, please.
Yeah, this is about a sense of coherence and finding like where you stand in life and what you do is meaningful to you. And I heard this story from a teacher who had she had a class, and they were like 10 years old, the students, and every week they started discussing how can you have a sense of coherence in the classroom during the week. And then every Friday they were evaluating how it went. And she mentioned that she got this inspiration from a sociologist called Aaron Antonovsky, and we will share his name in the notes later. And he was an Israeli-American sociologist who wanted to discover how some people could keep their health when in concentration camps. And what helped them was a sense of comprehensibility, and a sense of being able to manage their daily life, and a sense of meaningfulness. And I see this quite often, that people are like losing their sense of meaningfulness, and then they also lose their personal power. And I've done lots of different things to feel my sense of meaningfulness, even though things are not that easy all the time. And I learn from other people, and I listen to lots of other people, and that's the way I found new ways that work for me. So sense of coherence, and potentially if you work with a team and you would like to gain more personal power together, work on this together, read his books, check out some blog posts and see what he means, because I think his philosophy can help many people today.
No, thank you very much. Because there is a movie that I saw some years ago. Life is Beautiful, and it is all done by an Italian actor in a concentration camp, but he's playing as during a concentration camp, and that was really the trick, was always having, let's say, to be master of your own destiny, like in Invictus, also a very nice movie about it. Mm. So, Peter, can we have your second one?
Yeah, so it touches on what you've both said, and it also builds on my last one. So while personal power starts with us, personal power is amplified through connection. So it's our ability to work effectively with other people that enables us to get a lot more done. So the key question really is, how do you build connection? Well, I think it's about building trust. It's about being authentic. It's about a healthy acceptance of your strengths and weaknesses and awareness of those, but also a healthy acceptance of other people's strengths and weaknesses, and working together. One of the things that I often teach is the distinction between formal power and informal power. And one of the things that I'll often show people is a classic organisational chart, which has the standard sort of hierarchy from the CEO downwards. And then I contrast that with a different sort of chart that shows all of the lines and relationships that exist between individual people. And you'll never see one of those documented inside an organisation. But the people who are actually most effective and most influential are people who have lots of really good connections, lots of very good relationships, who, you know, when they're needing a lot of help, they'll have a lot of people rallying around to help them, as opposed to someone who doesn't have those strong connections, and when they need help urgently, they'll struggle to get it. So just to reinforce, the point is that personal power is amplified through connection.
Mm-hmm. Well, that again connects. It seems that we were like thinking together in our points. It connects with my point, is that when you really make a great connection with somebody when you help them to excel themselves. For instance, I don't believe that a great leader is the one that knows more. It is the one that is more supportive of others to excel themselves. We see terrific examples of great leaders that were not very good operationals, let's say. I can, even though it's a bit of a strange one that sometimes has some loves and hates, you can see the case of José Mourinho, that is a Portuguese coach in the English league, and in the Spanish league, and the Italian league, and the Portuguese league, so in every league. And one of the things that many people don't know is that he was a quite not very good football player. So he was not a good operational, let's say, on the field, but he knows how to put a team together. He knows how to make them excel, even using very strange methods sometimes. So, but the formula somehow works. And I wouldn't say that he's the, let's say, a role model, but it's an example where you have somebody that is not the most advanced, the most fantastic player that had knowledge previous in order to lead players, but he excels himself in excelling others. So that's the best way of making a great connection, because people that really connect with me are people that realize that in a way they went beyond their own expectations, because I did something with them. It might be a word in the right moment. It might be a challenge that was posed to that person. It might be even something that was at the moment felt very, very sour to be said, but it was the trigger of a new life. So, Sophie, your third and last.
Yeah, my final tip. I heard this from a relationship expert who wrote a book about how to be sane in a long-term relationship with a partner, and I thought it was awesome. And it's a question about whether you're a puppy or a shark. And how are you? Like, look into yourself and think about, are you like always a giver and pleaser even though someone has been nasty to you, or do you dare to speak up for yourself? Or are you the shark that everybody else has to sort of walk around and, use silk gloves and fuss around all the time? Where are you, and how often do you do what? How often are you the puppy who are like forgiving everyone who's been nasty to you and yes, happy, 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 happy? And how often are you the shark who just want more food, more love, more attention? And I thought it was amazing, because when you are developing your personal power and your own boundaries, you need to be able to look at yourself and see how often you give and how often you take, and are you like someone who everybody else has to please to be happy? And I have met people, I have not been in a relationship with a shark, I think, but I had a boss.
You still have all the hands and feet and everything.
Sorry?
You still have your hands and feet.
They haven't bitten them off.
Nope. No. But I had a boss once who was definitely a shark, and everybody had to please him, and it was ridiculous. I'm like, what's wrong with him? What happened to him as a kid? The psychologist inside me started to analyze everything with him. And of course, I've seen people pleasers as well. And don't be any of them. Set like a good level of who you would like to be, and like how often you want to give and how often you would like to take, and don't just be one of them, because then you're going to go crazy and you're going to lose all your personal power.
So, Sophie, are you saying that you have to find a balance between those two? Is that what you're saying? Or you don't want, it's not good to be either of those?
No, but sometimes you will be a puppy and like ask for forgiveness to just get over everything, and you're like, I cannot have this conflict any longer, whatever. Especially with people you spend a lot of time with. I think like in families this happens quite often. You're like, whatever, let's go do with this. And in workplaces, you have people like this all the time who never stands up for themselves, and they of course forget the personal power totally. So whatever you do, how you are, look at yourself and evaluate your shark behavior and puppy behavior.
So do you have another animal that represents the balance that we need?
No. I read use your imagination.
Well, I read a book many years ago which was absolutely brilliant called The Strategy of the Dolphin, and it talked about sharks, tuna and dolphins. So sharks are just ruthless and they play win-lose. Tuna are the victims, so they're always losing. The dolphins play win-win, so they're not a threat to the, they're not threatened by the sharks in any way. They play differently. So but yeah, I just wanted to clarify, you're not recommending to be a puppy or a shark. You're actually saying, find the balance and notice if you're off course. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I met some people who have problems with addiction, and they are always the bloody shark, I promise you, and you have to behave as a puppy, and it's awful. You will never be right. You can never have a discussion. You can never have an intelligent discussion. It doesn't work. Because they just want more love and attention, because that's how they work. And you're like, okay, is this healthy? No, it's not. And if you draw the line and say, I had enough, they're just going to cry, and they're going to cry, and they're going to cry, and it's your fault. You're like, right. No, it's not my fault. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Peter, I will be the puppy. For the and we'll ask for your third and last.
Which you've done a beautiful cue in, because my third one is to see life as play and discovery. So sometimes we can take life too seriously. I count myself in that, and we have an attachment to things being a certain way. We want to feel that we control everything. Someone once said, you didn't create the universe, and you're certainly not running it. I mean, there's so much going on that you don't know about, and it's about learning to relax into life and just, the old saying, go with the flow to some degree, because you can set your intentions, but life throws things at you that don't fit your plans or intentions, and it's your capacity to relax, see it as play, see it as discovery, and then you're not overreacting, you're just working with what is. And I think that's a place where you're very centered, very present, very aware and relaxed, so just see life as play and see it as discovery, and then you can't really go wrong.
So that's I was playing with you, so it was really, we were cueing to each other, so good. And mine last one is we can get power from one thing that has to do with connections that you said, Peter, and has to do with people. Aha, you are also playing goody. So we are fun people. Even though we look serious, me with a beer and the glasses and some gray hair, but we like fun, and that's why we have fun even in Hangouts. Oh, very key. So everybody wants to be a shareholder of success. Let me explain this. Imagine a meeting of friends. Friends are meeting, and they are talking about the third friend that is not over there. And they say something like, look, that third friend, by the way, had a success, okay, had some business success, whatever. And somebody in that group might say something like this, if it wasn't for me that gave him this contact, this money, this whatever, he wouldn't make it. And partially it's true, because if you think about the success of somebody, it is puzzle of contributions from several people. Might be an advice, might be a tip, might be blah, 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 a lot of things. But everybody wants to have a social medal of that. Yeah, I contributed to the success of this person. And is that nobody will try to get a social medal in reverse. Let's say you will never hear this conversation. Well, that guy, our friend, went bankrupt because of an advice I gave him. It seems that people, when they are successful, everybody contributes. When they go bankrupt, it was only them. It was really nobody contributed. Nobody. Now, what is interesting, because you know that every situation has contributions from everybody around. So, but the thing is that if we realize this power that everybody wants to be a shareholder of success, and also we are grateful for that, and we express our gratitude to all the people that gave their tiny, small bit of sand,
yeah,
you will get much more power. And we do that connection that you, Peter, were talking about.
So you're saying that it's really useful to acknowledge the input of other people to your success.
Exactly. Yeah. Because when you are like a selfish leader, like yeah, I did it by myself. Yes, I'm the greatest. Yeah. A kind of Trump thing. Yeah. It is complicated.
Yeah, I've heard it said, and I always strive to practice this as a speaker too, to acknowledge the source of things that you're sharing, rather than just saying things as if it's some brilliant idea that you had. It actually adds to your credibility and power to make reference to the person who you are quoting, rather than just making out that it was your idea. And the same in the corporate environment. It's, I think it's much more healthy to be at a meeting and to say, to share things. So I was having a conversation with John the other day, and he was saying that perhaps we ought to do X, Y, Z, and I really feel we should consider it. So you're kind of putting the idea forward, but you're also acknowledging, the source of that idea, which in my view gives you more credibility with everybody. So yeah, I think it's a great point.
People will be more willing to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a good point.
I can add one more thing to what you said. That I heard that the women did in the office of Barack Obama was that the women acknowledged, if a woman came up with an idea, another woman would immediately acknowledge her as it was her idea, instead of a guy would steal her idea immediately after and say it was his idea. So by doing that, they changed the pattern. Yeah. I read it. I think I read it in Harvard Business Review.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point, Steve, because stereotypically women tend to think more as a team, and they often, when they go for job interviews, they talk about we did this and we did that, which is frustrating for the interviewer because they want to know specifically what you did. And I think it is really important to get the balance right. So I think stereotypically men need to, kind of share the fact that it was more of a team effort rather than Mr. Individual Ego, but equally women sometimes need to acknowledge and own their piece in it a bit more. So yeah, it's all about balance, like everything.
And with that balance, we arrive to our time. It has been, as always, a great conversation and great sharing. Like the first point that we were talking about, power comes from sharing. And thank you very much once again, Peter, Sophie, from London, from Sweden, and from Portugal. We are, you are changing to the T.
No, I'm back in London.
It would be nice. By the way, to you up north, let me tell you that the temperature over here in Lisbon is 30 degrees and it's stunning. What can I say? We live in the best place. Guys, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye-bye.